That's what Neil does.
He's not going to pay as much as I do, because if he does, he won't buy mine.
Neil's the king.
Yeah, no.
No. So I've been looking so forward to having you here, because for the first time since 2016, I can say the market's strong, demand is up,
All right.
prices are going up, and and then I woke up this morning.
Good one.
Hey Randy, YouTube is gonna love that comment.
So let's do the market report first. I mean, it's not going to take long, and then we can talk about some other things. But unfortunately, it's been the same about for the last 5 years. Prices have been low, demand's low, so prices have been low. A few things have changed, moved around. We do have some bright spots, and what was negative hasn't really changed. So I won't say there's more things that went down than went up. There's probably more things for a change that are going up than are going down. Of course, everybody knows beaver's the #1 item. So, beaver's being driven by the hatter market, and basically only the hatter market. And I was just talking to this gentleman here, but everybody, the rumors going around, it's all because of the Yellowstone TV series. And everybody wants to buy a cowboy hat now. And that's partially true. So there's a big demand for cowboy hats. They're even opening up Western wear shops in New York City. Everybody wants a rodeo buckle, a pair of boots, and a cowboy hat. But however, that's not what's really driving the hatter market. That would be just a small percentage. Young men are wearing felt hats, and they're wearing what might have been called a fedora hat, but they're wearing a more stylish, smaller brimmed hat than a cowboy hat. But they're wearing them all over the world, and they're wearing them in Europe, and the largest hatteries are in Europe. The largest one's in Portugal, and it's just increased the demand for beaver, for felt. And they actually blend it. So they're blending the beaver felt with muskrat. Sometimes they're blending it with rabbit mostly. They're blending it with opossum. But it's primarily beaver felt. And it used to be traditionally that the felters would buy what they called the hospital section of the beaver. So they were the garbage, the section 3s, section 4s. It was beaver that were damaged with holes, beaver that had rubs, just not #1 beaver. But what's happened now is there isn't enough. Beaver trapping, because of the low prices, went down, so the yield was way down. They couldn't buy enough beaver. They couldn't buy enough hospital beaver to make the hats, so they had to start buying #1s. And then there's basically 3 hatteries in the country and the world, large scale ones, and they started competing. They needed beaver. One particular customer this last spring and summer was 50,000 beaver short on his order. So it just drove the prices up. I mean, they started paying more and more, and they had to start buying first section. And basically they bought everything but the selects. And the selects would be clean, heavy beaver that would normally go for fucking shooting. And those have always been the most expensive beaver. They weren't willing to pay quite that price, but they paid for everything. Good 2s, 1s, slights, everything went for hatters. I don't expect that to really change. I think we're going to still see strong beaver prices. However, a lot of people were told, you don't even worry about putting up the beaver. Leave some flesh on, if you leave some fat on, it's okay. If you put holes in them, it's okay. They're just getting weighed by the pound and everything's good. It's yes and no. You end up getting discounted, or the people that are buying end up getting discounted a little bit, because if it's a tainted beaver, it still doesn't work. You can't have a tainted beaver. So if there's fat going through it's going to burn the beaver, they'll slip before, the hair will slip before they get to the process that takes the hair off to make the felt. So we realized in our shop this year that where hatters would normally be in the in the 10% bracket. This past year, last season, we were running about 80% headers because people got lazy putting them up. And it cost everybody. And this year, I think there's going to be some kickback. I think that they're going to see that these beaver that weren't put up very well didn't work out for them the way they wanted, and they're going to be more selective. So, you know, my suggestion is if you still want to get a great price for your beaver, put them up right. Put them up just like you were putting up a beaver the year before this one. And that way you're insured. And then if the hatter market loosens up a little bit, and they're not buying some of the number ones, you can still sell them for hats, garments, not the hatter market, but for fur hats, garments, accessories. It's just an insurance policy. Mink isn't really going to change. Mink, all time. I mean, every year, it's a joke, running joke for me. I say, well, I bought all the mink this year because they can't get any lower. And, you know, I was right 3 years in a row. We have a lot of mink now. But, you know, muskrats aren't going to change because mink are cheap. And what's going on with the muskrat market is they use them in China to line coats, parkas, jackets. And as long as they're inexpensive ranch mink, they're not going to buy muskrats. They'd rather use ranch mink, better quality product, just as much coverage, no loss. You know, I mean, it's, you're not dealing with slips, skinning cuts, blisters. You know, any of the different things you can get with muskrats. So, you know, people have to understand that the wild fur market is really tied to the ranch fur market. So when ranch furs are high, so will wild fur. Because what happens is people will cycle. So when, it used to be anyway, that like when coyotes were expensive, then they'd switch to blue fox. Blue fox would be cheaper. Then when the blue fox got expensive, they'd go back to the coyotes because then the coyotes were cheaper. So, but the problem is now there's really no market for coyotes. And I probably hit on this last year, but you know, there was a buyer. It was Canada Goose. The Canada Goose Company was the largest parka maker, I believe, in the world, and they used coyote for fur trim around their heads. It's called ruff. So they made coyote fur ruffs. They put it on a parka, and that parka sold for $1,700. It was a down parka with coyote trim on it. They decided a little over a year ago that they were no longer going to put coyote trims on their coats. They were pressured by PETA. PETA actually had a person on their board, and they pulled out of the coyote market. Well, they were buying about 125,000 coyotes a year to make ruffs. They were selling over 500,000 parkas with coyote ruffs on them. You get about 4 ruffs per coyote. And they were buying western coyotes. They weren't buying eastern coyotes. But it drove the western coyote market much higher. The western coyotes are heavier, they're silkier than easterns. But what happened then was the Chinese were making knockoff parkas. It looked just like a Canada Goose parka, but they used eastern coyote trim, and it looked just, like I said, it looked just like it, but they were selling that same parka for $300-400.
Oh, marketer.
So when we lost the market for the Montana, you know, North Dakota, Wyoming type coyote, all of a sudden we lost the market for eastern coyotes because the Chinese weren't making knockoffs. So coyotes, I don't think there's going to be any change. And it's cycles, and all fur cycles. And, you know, most of us are, you know, the trapping community anymore, the average age keeps getting older and older. We can remember maybe back in the 80s and in the early 90s. I mean, I was in Montana, and you know, coyotes went from $350 average to about $10 overnight. And in Maine, the raccoons went from like $60 down to $5. You know, and it just cycles. But we've been at a low cycle longer than I've ever seen. You know, I bought my first wild fur in 1981, so I mean this is the longest down cycle I've ever seen. So the other thing is red fox. There hasn't been interest in red fox for years and years. So no interest in wild red fox. There's no interest in ranch red fox. There's novelty, you know, so the small crafters, that kind of thing, they're still buying red fox. People are buying wall hangers, but it hasn't disappeared, but the red fox market's gone away. I think we're going to see an increase in marten. We already have on marten and fisher, and that's primarily due to the fact that there are sanctions on Russia. And you can't get fur legally out of Russia. No fur into Russia through the European Union, through the United States. You can't export fur to Russia. They can't export fur from Russia. There has been a go around. Russia's been going through Turkey. So Turkey was a little bit more on Russia's side than the U.S. or the European Union. And what has been going on was Russia was shipping sables to Turkey, or people were buying sables in Russia, having them shipped to Turkey, and then Turkey would ship to them. They were going around. You get caught, it's a felony, you know, in the United States and whatever it would be in the country of origin in Europe, but people got away with it. So, but they're tightening they're basically tightening the clamps. It's getting more difficult to smuggle through China, through Turkey, and they can't get enough sables, so they're buying marten, and you know all sables are basically pine martens. It's just there's pine martens. You know, if you send a Maine marten to fur harvesters, it's a North American sable. So, there are bomb marten, there's stone marten. You know, there's the Russian sable. They actually have the stone marten, the European marten, and you know we have our North American marten. What we have here in Maine is a semi-heavy. Up in Canada, Alaska, they get a heavy, which is more similar to a Russian sable, but nothing beats a Russian sable. They're all heavier, silkier. They're just way bigger. But again, like I said, the price is going up just because of access. People need them. So and there aren't many being taken. I mean, we used to produce in North America 250,000 marten. Now we're producing, I don't think we're producing 25,000. So the demand is exceeding the supply, price is coming up. Simple mathematics. You know, I think we'll see on Maine marten, it's tough to give you a price, but we could see averages 35, 40, maybe even a little bit higher. Maybe some $40, $45 averages. Fisher, you know, probably in the $35 range averages, but maybe 40, 45. The market's not really predictable. It's super early. Nobody really knows till February what the heck the market's really going to be. Bobcats. Bobcats are in demand. Maine doesn't really produce a very good bobcat. However, you know, in Europe, the belly coats, you know, they want a wide white with a distinct black spot belly bobcat. Belly coats are hot, the vests are hot. They're even making hats and things with them, but it's mostly Western cats. But because Western cats have come back and gotten so much higher, our cats, which are a cloudy belly, usually a narrow belly, you know, almost a yellowish, you know, a real casty belly, but we get a heavy cat, so it'll cover. We do get some whiter bellies, which would be, you know, they're A, B, C, D in color, D being the worst, A being the best, and we get some B cats sometimes. You know, we don't really get any A cats, but we'll get some B cats. Still narrower bellies, but they can be used.
Is there any way they can bleach that out and whiten them up? You know,
At the tannery, they can brighten.
right, yeah.
But you can't bleach and brighten. Like an Arctic fox or something white, they can actually do a bleach and brighten. But you can't bleach a bobcat because then the spots would get bleached. So you'd end up with a brown spot and a white belly. But brightening does help. And brightening basically, it's like a bluing process. So if you went way back in time, our grandparents, when they were doing their, their husband's white shirts for work, they would use Mrs. Stewart's bluing, it was called. And it was just a bluing agent that you put in the washing machine in the water. And the blue brings out the white and kind of covers the yellow. And they can do that in a tannery, but I mean, if it's still, every bobcat's bright. But even with brightener, if it's a casty or yellowish belly, it's not going to come out pure white. It's not going to be that bright white with a dark black spot.
I know it can make a huge difference on some coyotes.
Brightening can,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, I called in an order to my dresser in the tannery today when I was on my way here, and all the westerns, so my Montana coyotes, my North Dakota coyotes, that kind of thing, they were all bright, all the bellies bright, but all my eastern coyotes, there's no reason to be bright because they're just dull colored, they're red, the bellies aren't even white, so they're yellow bellied, like that. So anyway, it's worth the money on the westerns to brighten them, and the value's there. It's added value to the coyote when you brighten them, but it's not with easterns. Skunks are still there. Skunks are paying more than red fox. Don't throw a darn skunk away. I mean, skunks are, at a minimum, like a narrow stripe or partial stripe might be under $5, but anything with a decent stripe and size that's, not an ADC summer skunk or something, but I mean, if you've got a well-furred skunk with a good stripe on it, it's in the teens to the 20s. I mean, as high as $30. So I mean,
Now you're talking.
Your average on skunks, I don't know, the common average is about $15, $16 right now. So that's more than a red fox. I mean, that's more than a red fox or a gray fox. And like I said, the foxes are going to be just where they were last year. Otter's been up a little bit. I think it's going to stay there. There's some interest in China again. They're using them more for ceremonial purposes. So, I mean, singed otters, so your spring otters are bringing more as well as the straight-haired otter. So they were up last year about 20-25%. In March, they came down a little bit in May at the harvester's auction, but they ended up for the year, which is good. I would say probably a 20% up average for the year. I think they're going to be there, might even be higher. I mean, we're really looking at prices could be stronger this year. I thought it was going to happen last year, but the take is just continually going down, 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 and we're finally, that is a good thing in a way, but we're at the level now where supply on just about anything is going to exceed demand. So if anybody wants anything, there's going to be some competition for the goods. And as I said before, really nobody here does this for a living unless you're an ADC. Nobody's really doing this for a living anymore. It's recreational. We all enjoy it. You enjoy trapping as much as you do, or if not more than you like fishing and hunting. And they do nothing but cost you money. If you get any return trapping, it's a plus. It's a bonus. And like I said, I enjoy it just as much, if not more, and I get return, which you don't get anything in the other way. You get some expensive fish or meat, but I mean, you're not really getting your gas money back or anything like that. So the market in general, I'm just going to go over it a little bit. Part of the problem with the market is the Chinese economy is doing poorly. They're kind of in the situation we were in 2009. So their real estate market's crashed. Their manufacturing is decreasing. They're in a deflation instead of an inflation. So prices are going down. They don't have orders because the European countries and the United States, retail is going down because of inflation. Nobody's ordering. And we have all the tariffs, is on fur. So if I buy any fur products from China, I don't know if anybody else in here knows, there's a 25% tariff. So it's, you know, anything, if I'm paying $100, it's actually $125 when it leaves China. Plus it's going on a container, it's coming across the ocean, you're paying duty, you're paying taxes, customs, everything that's coming in. So it's not as attractive as it used to be. Even though they have cheap labor, when you add 25% on it, it makes it more expensive. But anyway, China is not in the market like they were. And what's happened to the fur industry is, you know, years ago, so we're going back to like 2009, when NAFTA started really pushing Chinese business. And they started promoting the North American fur business in China to the tune of about $500,000 a year, promoting our fur. And China started buying our fur, and it was the same thing as what happens mostly with just about any product in China. They became very competitive, and they drove prices right through the roof. And we all saw prices, record prices, 2009 through 2013. But then it's just like anything else. When the Chinese get out, they just get out. And it crashed. And the thing is if they even want to get back in, or when they still want to buy fur, everything has to be cheap. I mean, they're used to just buying things for nothing. They want to buy 50 cent to $1.50 raccoons. You know, they want. I'm talking an auction price, but so let's just say the price into their shops, their factories. You know, they want to be in that $5 range, and it kills our market because they just won't buy. So if they don't buy until everybody gets too much inventory, the auction houses, the big collectors, like, I won't mention names, but some of the big raw fur collectors, and finally they get too much inventory and they've been holding it too long and they have to sell it. The auction company says, well, we're not here we're not in the storage business, we're in the auction business. So they need to sell product, so they have to cave. And we created a bad cycle depending on China, because it just hasn't worked out in the long run. It worked great in the short run, it's not working in the long run. Russia was number 2. The second largest fur buyer. There's sanctions now. We can't sell them fur. So we lost the Russian market. We also lost the Ukrainian market. And people don't realize Ukraine was like the 3rd largest buyer. So, I mean, in terms of actual countries, the European Union bought more, Greece bought more, but I mean, we really lost the 3 top fur buying countries in the world. So the demand isn't what it was. Now going to the fur industry and how it's tied to the wild fur industry is, the ranch fur industry typically is paid for all the promotion for wild fur also, because when they're promoting ranch fur, everybody followed with wild fur, and NAFTA did a great job of promoting wild fur as well as ranch fur, and there's nobody doing that. There's nobody promoting our wild fur in the scope that it used to be promoted. So a lot of it has to do with exposure. I mean, as we lose fur buyers, as we lose manufacturers, as we lose retailers, Macy's doesn't carry fur any longer. Canada Goose doesn't. We could just keep going down the line. It's about exposure. If the largest buying clothing sector in age is 18 to I think 32. If that 18 to 32-year-old person that doesn't have exposure to the products, they don't know what's out there. They don't know that this fur vest looks great, or this fur scarf would look great, or then there's no trends. Nobody's trending, and it's just, we need exposure, and we've lost NAFTA, we've lost some of our markets. So we need to, I was talking to one of the directors for Saga Furs, which is the big, Finnish fur sale, auction. They sell North American mink, they auction off North American mink. They auction off, all the Finnish foxes, as well as European mink and fin raccoon. And, it's they're afraid it's the end of the industry. I mean, I talked to one of the directors on the board, and he said, Randy, we don't know what to do anymore. Our ranchers have sold at a loss for 8 years. Nobody will lend them money any longer. Nobody will advance them money on the pups. They can't borrow any more money, and they've got nowhere to go anymore because Russia's not buying, China's not buying, and they said, he said, I think it's the end, and that's a real sad thing. I mean, it's the first time I've ever heard that. But he said this could be the end of the ranched fur industry. He said because a lot of fur farmers, the ranchers in Finland, after the May sale, went home and they killed their puppies because they would lose less money killing the puppies than they would raising them till they could harvest them and put them up in December. So it's that bad. And they used to produce millions of foxes, and now, they're producing 250 to 500,000 foxes a year. I mean, it's 1/10 of what it was. So, what's going to happen to wild fur? Well, I think there's always going to be a market, even if we lose the ranch fur industry. There's going to be a market for wild fur. It might be a novelty market. It's going to be a smaller market. However, it's evolving. It's changing. The fur business today is not the same as what it was 5 years ago. It has changed, and it's changed immensely, and it's evolved maybe not in a good way. And we need to do something about it, I guess I'm saying. I had a company meeting at our business just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And for the first time in my life, I said, I need help. I don't have any more ideas. I need help. We need to do something to promote, and I don't know what it is. We need exposure. We need to go out there, and it's, the trappers work together with other trappers. Hunters seem to stay together. Fishermen seem to stay, but they're after all of us. And everybody has to work together. I mean, everybody, hunters need to promote trapping. Trappers need to promote. We all need to, because they're after all of us. I say it on some YouTube videos, but I mean, you can't let 2% of the people dictate what the other 98% can eat or wear. And that's what's happening. We're letting 2% of the population, who are way more vocal and better funded than us, destroy our business. And so we need to start spending some of our own money, I guess. I don't know what else to do. We need to promote. We need to get people wearing fur. We need, so if you have fur, you're a trapper, you're a hunter, wear fur. Wear fur. It's what we have to do. Show pictures of it. Decorate, decorations in your home. Talk to people. It's when somebody says, "Oh, it's okay to kill an animal for food," but no, you're just killing it for the fur on its back. No, it's not wasted. I mean, the Finnish furs, the ranchers, that meat goes for poultry food, different animal feeds. The bones go for fertilizer, and it's all being utilized. Nothing gets thrown away. They sell the fur for clothing, yeah. And and if just to be blunt, if an animal dies for food or it dies for fur, then it's a dead animal. Now, unless you're a vegetarian, there's no difference. We're an omnivore. I don't feel guilty. I eat meat, so there's no difference. There's just no difference. And but everything gets utilized. There's nothing waste. You know, everybody here, you know, it's the beaver. You sell the castor, you sell the hide. You know, you can sell the skull, you can sell the tail, you can sell the meat. So it doesn't all, you know, there's really nothing going to waste. And we need to let everybody know that. We need to be vocal. We need to tell people this is what it's like. This is what's going on. Let's be realists. I don't want to hide anything. So again, like I said, we don't want to lose the ranch industry because the wild fur industry is dependent. It's a codependent of the fur industry, but we really depend on the ranch industry because, you know, most of your garments are made out of ranch fur. And, you know, when you see a celebrity wearing fur, hey, you know, it's usually ranch fur. But you know, we do lots of work for, you know, we do lots of work for movies, TV shows. We do work for celebrities. It's getting them maybe to come out and promote for us. I mean, you know, I'm always saying, you know, tell people, you know, don't be afraid, you know, if you like fur, tell people, you know, it's, you know, and again, where I was talking about 2% of the people that are influencing the other 98, you have to think about it too. If you look at the population, we're lucky if 2% of the population are trappers. So if 2% of the population can try to put us out of business, 2% of the population can do just the opposite. 2% of the population can become vocal. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So again, you know, the other thing is too is look around this room. You know, what's the average age?
23.
71.
Yeah. So, you know, the average age of a trapper right now is probably in the mid-60s. And, you know, take somebody trapping. You know, take a young kid. I mean, if you got kids, take them. If you got grandkids, take them. You know, get them out there, let them enjoy the outdoors, let them learn what it's like to trap, hunt, fish. Get them outside. You know, get them to take a break with their thumbs and be inside. You know, get them outside, exercise. You know, it's you know, the youth is our future, and that's the other part. You know, youth is our future. We need to get them outside, recreating, and believing in this and understanding it. Because actually, surveys have shown that the 18 to 30-year-old right now doesn't want to be told what they can wear. They want to wear whatever they want. And you know, and it's again too. They don't know that Stetson hat or Resistol hat or Bailey hat that they're wearing. Maybe even if it's a a fedora or or a cowboy hat, they don't know it's made from beaver felt. Most of them don't. You know, and if they look inside that hat, it has the number of X's, and that's the quality of beaver felt. You know, a 6X hat is a 6 quality beaver felt hat. So, you know, I think the other part too is how we're ecological friendly. So, you know, they consider Patagonia the most ecologically friendly company in the world. You know, Patagonia, they donate all this money and they do all this for the environment. And I think that's great. Yvonne Chouinard puts all this money into environmental projects and things for the environment. However, you know, that's his number one sellers are made out of polar fleece. Fleece is a petroleum product. And you know, the life, if you bury a pelt, the tan fur in the ground, its life is about 3 to 4 months. If you bury a fleece garment, it's thousands of years. So, you know, we're way more ecologically friendly, environmentally friendly. But certain points like that, everybody should know. But nobody knows that because trappers are known to be loners. You know, we like to stay to ourselves. We like to live in rural areas. We like to be out in the outside. The vocal people live in cities. We need to reach those people.